What's up, everybody? It's Itisha Bankston with the Gathering Place Podcast, Season 2, Episode 2. We're here with the Presleys. I have Tiffany Presley and Mackenzie Presley. They're joining me here today, and we're going to talk about something that's extremely important. Now, we understand that in today's climate, there's a whole lot going on, right? We've got racial injustice. We've got, of course, a global pandemic that continues to ravage many cities. But I wanted to take some time to talk about, as we prepare to return to school, and just the different things that are going to come about as a result of it, how parents can best equip their students to prepare for issues with bullying. It's a serious issue. It's a matter that's severe enough where we have kids who are very young committing suicide as a result of just being picked on all the time. Now, I'm sure that you've heard different podcasts. For those of you that have children that have been victims of bullying, I'm sure you've gone up to the school and let people know of how mad you are, or have done some efforts yourself to try to thwart these things. But we're going to hear today from Mackenzie, who has begun an initiative, which I think is amazing because she's so young. But we're going to hear a little bit about her backstory. I'm going to give her mom an opportunity to speak, to talk about this very important effort to really try to get kids talking about it. Because it's just not something that's talked about all the time. I think kids really feel intimidated and just don't want to go into it. So I'm going to ask Tiffany to give us a little bit of background about her family, Mackenzie, how this whole thing got started. And then we're going to talk. But before we do that, Mackenzie, hi.
Hi.
Why don't you tell us how old you are and what school you go to?
I'm 7 years old and I go to St. Rita's School.
St. Rita in Solon, Ohio. So that is Mackenzie. That's where she goes. She's 7 years old.
Right.
Goodness gracious. And she started talking to you about this
actually about a year and a half ago.
So she was yet 6. 6 years old. Very much. Okay, so Tiffany, give us a little bit of background about you guys.
Okay, so we're a family of 4. My husband and we have a almost 11-year-old son. I can't believe that. I can't
believe it.
And then Mackenzie, who will be 8 on the 12th of this month. So she's about to have a birthday.
Oh my gosh! Well, happy pre-birthday to you. I didn't even know. Oh Lord.
Yes. So we're going to celebrate the entire month.
Yes.
Because that's what she requires. But so about a year and a half ago, we tried, my husband and I, to be really open with the kids. We have a very non-contemporary or traditional way of parenting. Some things are hit and miss. You know, you learn as you grow with your kids. But what's most important, we never wanted to be a household that our children could not talk to us. And especially in the Black community, it's hard because we have these ideals that are set, or these unspoken rules with regards to things that you do talk about and things that you don't talk about. But once you start setting those type of parameters and those restrictions around your communication with your children, then that puts them in a heightened position to be bullied, to be abused, to start confiding in people that they shouldn't, you know. So we have always been open with them. So about a year and a half ago, one day we were talking, and Mackenzie doesn't even really remember this, but one day we were just talking, and our son Cameron has a girl that was in his classroom at the time, and she wasn't being the stereotypical way of being bullied. Like she wasn't being physically abused at school. She wasn't being picked on or talked about, but she was being ostracized,
isolated.
Yes, thank you.
Severe.
Yes,
severe.
And sometimes that can be even more damaging. Because then the person, especially at a child's age, feels that they don't have anywhere to belong. So one day, and we were talking about it, and Kenzie has you guys may not see this come through on the camera today, but she has a very strong personality, a very, very strong personality. She's very strong, and I'm very proud of her. And she was just talking about this, and this, our son is 2.5 years older than her, so this is not in her grade, anything like that. But she had noticed it. So we were talking about it when we asked them how their day went, and she started talking about this girl kind of being by herself and her overhearing a conversation, I think, about the little girl. And so I start probing and asking questions, and she's like, well, what is there something we can do, or maybe we should do something? And as parents, because we have a lot on our plate as well, sometimes we dismiss ideas and strategies and our children's dreams and wants, and how they can use themselves as catalysts to affect the society in a good way.
Yeah.
Because we have so much going on.
Yeah. Let's talk about that question a little bit. Like, I know sometimes when you start to ask a kid, well, how was your day? Well, what did you do in school today? Well, tell me what you learned, or that kind of thing. When you mentioned, you started probing and asking a few more questions, what was her response? And what maybe sometimes is your son's response? And I'm asking this because I know that there are parents that try to ask questions of their children, and then their children clam up. So what were their responses? Did they continue to kind of just talk? Did she continue to kind of just talk and just was kind of just having a conversation?
Well, our son, he naturally is very much an introvert, and so he dismisses a lot of things. He just like, oh, she's fine, and he didn't really reciprocate in the conversation. But Mackenzie was like, no, this is what was happening, and I don't think that it's right. So then I continued to ask her, well, what exactly happened? But I think what makes our children clam up and shut down is also our tone in when we're asking them, because we can be very defensive and overbearing at times, especially when you're talking about your children, right?
Yeah, there's a sense of urgency there.
There's a sense of urgency. You want to
dig.
dig.
Not be received by the kid. The kid may be thinking, oh, this is a trouble tone, and you're like, oh, you're not in trouble. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of it.
Right.
Just trying to figure it out. Right.
Right. And it sometimes takes kids a little bit longer to open up and get from A to B, and we're like this, like, okay, no, wait, did they mess with you? What happened? Tell me what happened. Does this happen to you? And then you want to get in and get more information about it. So it is all about our tone. And also, asking questions. We're on such a fast pace as a society.
Absolutely.
So when you ask a question, give them time to respond and really give you an answer.
That's actually a teaching strategy. It's called wait time. You have to give wait time for kids to be able to respond. Teachers know this. You're supposed to give wait time when you ask a question. So let me get to this, Mackenzie. I want you to tell us about this initiative that you started. I want you to tell us, what does it involve and who is it for? Your mom already told us how it began, but I just want you to tell us a little bit about it from your perspective. About your nonprofit. So tell us about, what do you do? What is it about? And what it's called. Yes.
It's called Just Be, and it's about not bullying people the way they look on the outside, because you don't know what they look like on the inside. And just the way they look to you, if you call them like ugly, they're not ugly, they're people in the world, and you're one of them and they're one of you.
That is a very, very mature outlook. It really, really is. It takes a really observant person, even as a child. We know children see a lot, but it takes a very observant person to be able to articulate that, to say, we're all people, right? Regardless of what they look like on the outside. And you know what? Honestly, while we're talking, sadly, bullying does not stop at childhood.
Correct.
It goes on and on and on through adulthood, and people find different ways of dealing with it. But these things happen and continue to evolve. But I want to go back a little bit. Tell us some of the details about Just Be. Tiffany, give us a little bit of insight on, the purpose, the mission, the vision, just so that people can have an understanding.
So the purpose of Just Be. So when Mackenzie came to me, like, we should do something, my first thought was, okay, what am I going to make for dinner? And then I had to check myself and pull myself back and say, okay, are you really hearing her? Fortunately, as far as I know, neither one of our children have been directly victims of bullying. So I wanted to figure out, okay, what can we do? And because that's what she was asking me. So I felt like it was important to have a program put in place for children by children. Most of the anti-bullying programs, literature, workshops, are all, like, even when you Google it, you get national statistics, you get some of the news or media footage unfortunately, if there's coverage of a child that's committed suicide or a teenager that's committed suicide. So we wanted to gear and have kids be able to communicate with their peers with regards to their feelings and how to eradicate bullying in the schools and create a safe space, and also be able to educate parents because we don't know, you, especially when you're dealing with children, oftentimes boys or girls, when kids come to their parents and they're trying to talk about bullying or someone's picking on them, typically the response is, "Oh, you'll be all right," or "That's just what kids do."
Quit crying, or did
or
you
quit
win,
crying,
or fight back, or
exactly.
just a lot of different things. I wanted to touch on a little bit before you go on about being by kids for kids.
Right.
Working in schools, a lot of initiatives are started by adults because we think we know, of course, what children need, what they're looking for, and to some degree, that's why God made us the adults, right?
Right.
We know a little bit about what a kid may need, but I think being able to have something that was started by a child, being able to speak from a child's perspective, being able to talk in language that children understand, being able to relate using those same types of feelings and emotions and understandings that are appropriate at different stages, like, I think it makes a difference. It makes good sense because, we've had, what was it, Dare and Just Say No and all these different things, right, that came to the schools, and there would be adults coming and they would be completely out of touch, and they would say, "Why don't you come and tell me?" You can always talk to a trusted adult. And you can. You can always talk to a trusted adult, but I think the difference and the thing that makes this unique is that she's actually going to places and speaking.
Yes.
She's actually the person that's presenting, and you do hear about these things on a larger scale, but this is the only person that I know that's doing it.
And how they can relate.
So
definitely we'll have, we're in the beginning stages, right when we received our nonprofit status and started applying for grants, then the world shut down. And education as we know it is definitely going to look a little bit different. So we are trying to re-strategize with regards to our programming. Our plan is to have mentorship programs, have workbooks. So we're in the process of putting the literature together, but in using her voice, terminology, so that if you're 7 or 10 and you're looking over, some works like a questionnaire with regard to identify, to put it on paper as to if you are being bullied or how to express yourself better. But it's in your own words so that they can feel more comfortable having resources for parents to be able to reach out. So workbooks, literature for parents. When we're in a more safe space, we're going to have like after school programming, where we can go into different schools, do some speaking about it, have like an open forum with regards to people explaining, talking about their feelings, getting it out there, giving strategies, and then also trying to help the bullier. Because people don't just typically bully,
right.
And as you were stating, as we grow up and become adults, we experience bullying in the workplace. We experience bullying on a day-to-day, depending on your environment that you're in. And because it never goes away, right. They just grow up. So you have kid bullies that then turn into adult bullies.
Mackenzie brought up a point earlier before we got started, and I was, we were talking about why people do these things. You think you can remember to tell us what you said earlier about why people bully?
Oh, yeah. Because they may have, like, hard things they're going through, they bully people so that they can forget about those hard things that they experienced in the past or in the future.
Right.
That's an important note because it's cliche, but it's so true that hurt people do hurt people.
Yes.
And we were talking about I had been on a call earlier today, and we were talking about when the children return to school, whatever that may look like, the things they may have seen. And that kind of leads me to my next question about how important it is for parents to prepare for conversations that are going to be they're going to have with their kids in this upcoming year as school returns, because this spring to fall has been fraught with racial injustice, with riots, with violence, with sickness, disease, widespread death, and children are seeing all of this happen. Not to mention if there's something in their own home, if there's violence in their own home, if there's been someone in their own family that's died because of COVID, if there's someone in their own home that they're being the recipient of abuse or anything like that. So what do you think are some ways that parents can prepare? You know, I know parents are on high alert about whether or not they're going to even send their kids back to school, but the reality is in some form they're going to have to go back, right? Whether it's virtual or blended or whatever. But what do you think parents can do to prepare to have these types of conversations with their kids?
First, take a deep breath and realize that you're not perfect, but you have to put yourself aside and have conversations with your kids with regards to how they feel. My children are really sheltered. I will say that.
You agree? Just like, yeah, we are. We can't do nothing.
Can't go nowhere. But they are really sheltered. And a couple of years ago, I started having conversations with our son with regards to just being a young black male. And he was completely oblivious to what I was even talking about, like what issues there would be and why I would be having this conversation with him. And then, so now, you know, with COVID and schools closing abruptly, and then the news typically in a lot of households, you know, the news is running all day. And you can't get away from it. And so having conversations with them to see where their headspace is, you know, their thoughts and their feelings really do matter. One of my close friends, she and I always laugh about it. She was saying, I don't know if her daughter was like 5, 7 or 10, something around that time frame, and she was talking about how she was just stressed, just having a conversation, and her daughter was like, oh yeah, I'm so stressed too. And she looked at her daughter in confusion like, girl, what you got to be stressed about? And she told her like, well, mommy, kids have worries and stresses too, which is true. These things that they are unfortunately exposed to, which are always exist, but they're exposed to, we have to have conversations with them about them and make that door open to be able to communicate so that they can articulate how they feel, and we can take into consideration their feelings and make decisions based on that. You know, everything that your child wants, of course, they're not going to just get, or it's not going to just go that way. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of kids that are like, yes, I want to go back to school, but the parent may not feel like it's safe or appropriate. We actually are heavily looking into homeschooling. We are blessed to be able to do that. Not everyone can do that, so I do understand that. But then you still have to make sure that your child is socialized properly, and you know, things like that. So I just think that in preparing for school, whatever it's going to look like, having conversations with your kids with regards to that some people are going to be different than you. You know, some people are going to be heavier in weight, some people are not. Some people are going to be tall and skinny, and some people are not. Some people are going to be dark skinned, some people are not. Some people are going to be really fair skinned, and some people are.
Hey guys, thanks for watching part 1 of this video. Please be sure to watch part 2. The link is in the description box below.